Emily Parker's story did not start in a fairy tale. Born in a rural community in Georgia, she knew the taste of difficulty early on. His mother, a night duty nurse, and her father, missing since she was 3 years old, left her mark on a daily survival struggle. At 22, Emily shared her days between exhausting work as a waitress and the nights studying to try something better. Your biggest dream? Be interior designer. But dreams, for now, lived only in the scribbled notebooks in their small rented room. It was on a hot summer afternoon, while serving coffees at a charity event in downtown Atlanta, which fate decided to perform. He was called Nathan Bennett. Nathan wasn't just handsome, he was inaccessible. CEO of one of the largest developers of the country, heir to a billionaire fortune and cover of business magazines, with a mysterious air and eyes that seemed to see beyond appearances. Emily did not expect to be noted. It was on apron, with hasty hair and trembling hands holding a tray. But Nathan looked at her, smiled, and asked his name. At that moment, something changed. Nathan returned to the same coffee where Emily worked 3 days later. It wasn't the kind of place someone like him frequented, but there was, sitting in the corner, taking cold tea and reading something on his tablet. Emily felt her heart shoot by recognizing him. She tried to act normally, but each step seemed heavier, every more difficult word to come out. "Emily, right?" he asked with that same calm smile. "Yes, Mr. Bennett." "Nathan, please." They talked for a few minutes. He asked about the city, what she was doing outside. Emily, reluctant, said she was studying design at night. He seemed genuinely interested. When she came back with his request, she found a generous tip and a note. Never doubt her talent. N. In the following weeks, Nathan appeared more often, sometimes for coffee, sometimes just to talk. Emily did not understand the reason for so much interest, but she could not deny that she felt alive with each new visit. Nathan's world was made of luxurious dinners, business travel, and millionaire decisions. Her overdue accounts, crowded buses, and reused lunchboxes. But at some point between the contrast of worlds, a true connection emerged. One night, after closing the restaurant, she found an envelope under one of her chairs. Inside there was a ticket for a design exhibition, and on the ticket, "You need to see that. Maybe the world also needs to see you." Emily hesitated. He was afraid to delude himself, to be just a hobby, but there was something in Nathan that looked different. She decided to go. Emily entered the gallery hall with shy steps, wide eyes at the bright works, the impeccable white walls, and the crowd dressed in designer clothes. She wore the most beautiful dress she had, a simple blue thrift store, and yet she was displaced. Nathan was waiting for her near the main entrance, smiling kindly. She was stunning in a tailored suit, but she didn't seem bothered by her simplicity. On the contrary, he reached out and introduced her to some people, as if she were a promising artist, someone with a bright future. "This is Emily. She has a design vision that the world doesn't know yet," he said proudly. She barely knew where to stick her face, but she also felt a spark of pride lighting her chest. For the first time, someone believed in her more than herself. At the end of the night, they walked under the city's lights. Nathan told stories of his childhood, which despite the wealth had always been lonely. Emily revealed the constant fear of failing, not being able to get out of the poverty cycle she was born. "I know our worlds are different, Nathan," he said, looking at his own shoes, spent. "Maybe they are. But you make me want to live in a new world," he replied, touching her hand. It was the first kiss, fast, honest, surprising. She returned home floating. The younger sister, Lily, noticed the shine in her eyes and caused, "Can I buy the lady hat of honor?" Emily laughed, but inside, the heart was at war. "I was afraid of falling in love with something I couldn't achieve. The relationship between Emily and Nathan flourished, but the winds of prejudice began to blow. Nathan's father, Richard Campbell, was a tycoon known for the coldness and relentless business. When I heard from the girl that the son was seeing, he did not hide the disdain. A poor neighborhood designer. Nathan, you need someone at your height, not a romantic charity, he said, in front of a dining table surrounded by crystal and arrogance. Nathan reacted. For the first time in years, he hit his father. Emily has more character than a lot of people in this hall, and if you can't see it, maybe the blind is you. Meanwhile, Emily faced her own ghosts. His boss in floriculture, the gentle Lady Rose, warned her carefully. People like him, they live in a world where feelings come after contracts. Just promise yourself that you won't get lost in it, Emily reflected. I was in love, yes, but I couldn't help but feel an intruder. He started to move away gradually, cancelling meetings, taking care to answer messages, Nathan realized. Are you afraid, Emily? He asked in a call. I'm trying to protect myself, she confessed, her voice embargoed. And who will protect me if you leave? Their silence lasted a few days. Too long. Emily spent days fighting her feelings. The heart said to fight, but reason shouted to escape. Her mother, who had raised her alone after her father abandoned them, realized her anguish and decided to talk. Do you love this boy? She asked bluntly. As they washed the dishes, Emily hesitated but replied, with all my heart, but I don't know if it is enough. Love is never simple, daughter. But running away out of fear is letting the world decide its end. The words echoed in Emily. She realized she had sabotaged, not for Nathan, but because she thought she wasn't worthy. He went to his apartment in the middle of the night. He found him sitting on the porch alone, with his eyes lost in the bright city. You were right, Nathan, she said, approaching. What? About, I'm afraid. But if I fall, I want to fall trying. Not for running. Nathan got up and hugged her tightly. Nothing has been said. It was not necessary. Reconciliation did not erase the problems. Nathan's father publicly confronted them at a gala party, creating a scandal. But for the first time, Emily faced the world with her head up. With all due respect, Mr. Campbell, whom your son loves, is not your account. But if it were, I would still fight tooth and tooth to prove that I deserve to be by him. Because it is not the money that defines who we are. That's what we do with him. The hall silenced. Emily didn't shout it. She spoke with dignity, and that was worth more than any title. Nathan grabbed her by the hand, proudly on her face. This is the woman I chose, and no one, not even my father, will make me change my mind. In the following months, Emily and Nathan faced what seemed to be a silent war. It was not only the eyes on the streets or the whispers at events, but also the headlines on the gossip sites. The Campbell heir involved with a young man of humble origin. The words hurt, but they did not break. Nathan, for love, moved away from family business. He began investing in a social project designed by Emily, a training center for needy communities. Together, they created Hope Bridge, a space that united education, art, and purpose. Emily was recognized not for her story, but for the impact she had. He won awards for social leadership and was invited to talk about conferences. His image has become poor girl into a symbol of overcoming. But not everything was flowers. Emily's mother fell ill. An aggressive cancer consumed her quickly. Emily took care of her with love, even between trips, meetings, and sleepless nights. Nathan remained beside, like silent pillar, respecting the moment. On a cold winter night, Emily sat next to her mother, who could barely open her eyes. You became everything I dreamed, the mother whispered with a weak smile. Never forget that love is your greatest strength. A few days later she left. The void was immense, But Emily turned pain into even more purpose. Life was no longer just about her and Nathan. It was about the legacy. How many lives could be touched by the force that true love had given them? Time has passed, and the Hope Bridge Center expanded to other neighborhoods and states. Emily was gradually becoming a respected public figure. It was no longer just the girl the millionaire chose, but a woman recognized for her work, empathy, and courage. Nathan, in turn, continued to move away from the corporate world. His passion now was to be with Emily's side, building something that really made sense. He never ceased to be heir to fortune, but his true wealth has become another: freedom to live with purpose. On a spring afternoon, in the garden of the community center that founded together, Nathan called her to walk. The flowers were blooming, and children laughed in the background. "Do you remember when we met?" he asked, smiling. "Of course. You were the well-dressed guy with a golden pen and I the waitress with her dirty coffee, and yet it was you who shone." He knelt down, pulling a small silver ring with a blue stone, simple but meaningful. "Emily, I don't love you for what you did for me or everyone else. I love you for who you are, and if you allow, I want to spend the rest of your life by building the world by your side. Do you accept?" Emily felt her eyes filled with tears, but her heart was light, as if waiting for that moment since the first exchange of looks. "Yes, Nathan, 1,000 times yes." The whole garden applauded. The kids jumped and threw petals that had gathered. It was not a luxury marriage. There were no marble columns or famous guests, but it was real, pure, and eternal. The life of Emily and Nathan had become proof that fate sometimes has much more grandiose plans than we imagined. From a simple beginning, a love story between a young woman of humble origin and a millionaire man, something was born that transcended the money, appearances, and expectations of society. They were no longer just the unlikely couple that many had judged. They were a symbol of transformation. The Hope Bridge Center had become a model for other cities, and many families had found support, comfort, and a new chance to start over, just as Emily had done one day. Their routine was intense. Emily was still spending hours in the center, talking to families, guiding young people, and welcoming those who, like her, were looking for a better future. Nathan, in turn, divided his time between center management and initiatives to expand the NGO's reach, but always reserved room to be next to Emily. Sometimes they sat at night on the couch of their simple home, now decorated with memories of their journeys and travel, and talked about what they had gained. The path they had traveled was not easy, but together they had overcome all the obstacles. They no longer lived in the illusion of perfect love, but in the deep recognition that true love is built with mutual effort and understanding. One Saturday morning, Emily woke up with a sense of peace. When he got out to the kitchen, he found Nathan making coffee. He looked at her and smiled that smile that made her feel safe and loved. "Emily, do you think there is more to do?" he asked, watching the coffee cups on the table. She sat next to her, looking at the horizon where the sun was beginning to be born, gently illuminating the landscape around. "There will always be more, Nathan. The world is great, and the stories we need to tell are still many. But today, I just want to feel the heat of this moment, with you by my side." Time didn't stop, but they had finally found a balance. A love that did not depend on riches, status, or expectations, but truly partnership and, above all, a commitment to something greater. The Hope Bridge Center continued to grow, playing more lives than they could ever imagine. There were no more limits to the dreams that Emily and Nathan could achieve. And so, with renewed courage, they followed side by side, not as heroes, but as human beings, ready to make a difference. Final, the legacy of Emily and Nathan. Years passed, But the story of Emily and Nathan remained alive in every corner of the center, in the stories that families told, in the smiles of children who now had a chance to study, in the words of thanks to those who received a second chance. Emily and Nathan have finally understood that what matters is not what you have, but what you give. The love that is built along the way, the sacrifices made, the lives touched, and above all the courage to love without fear of failing, because in the end, the greatest wealth of all is not in material goods, but in the people we can help, grow and transform as they themselves had done. And so the story of Emily and Nathan has become a legend of love, perseverance and transformation, where, above all, the most important A. The difference in social class, but the ability to see beyond appearances and make the world a better place, a small step at a time. I left a song especially made for this story, for you who accompanied us to the end. I hope you enjoy. Comment on music if I have come here. Don't forget to subscribe and enjoy to continue in this format. May God bless you, and until the next exciting story.
With dreams so distant, but love was there, of a simple and real world where the sun never stopped shining. She looked at the future and saw what it could achieve. Eyes full of pain, but also with a heart open to love. Of such distant worlds, they met on the way, and together they built a divine destination. Beyond appearances, beyond what you see, love is stronger than the power you have. They walked hand in hand without looking back. They overcame fear and came to peace. Beyond love is. Beyond appearances, she was no longer just a lost girl. He was not just a man of an empty life. In difficult days together, they supported themselves. On dark nights, they illuminated with a center of hope. They started living. The past stayed and the future began to flourish. And their love was more than a choice. It was the strength of a heart that does not hide. Of each tear, a smile came up. From each fall, a firmer step. Life built them. In addition to appearances, beyond what you see, love is stronger than the power you have. They walked hand in hand without looking back. They overcame fear and came to peace. Beyond appearances, beyond what you see, what matters is love. It is what makes us grow. Together they changed, together found which life has best. Each other, always love it. It was not about money, nor about what it seemed to be. It was about transforming the world, about the strength of a simple want. And even when the world said no, they found the floor, and they showed that love is the solution. Beyond appearances, beyond what you see, love is stronger than the power you have. They walked hand in hand without looking back. They overcame fear and came to peace. Beyond appearances, beyond what you see, what matters is love. It is what makes us grow. Together they changed, together found which life has best. Each other, always love it. Beyond appearances, beyond what you see, love is the key. It's where let's live together, always. together.